So you just beaten Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and you ask yourself, what now? What do I play? Well, stay tuned. We'll go over the top 10 games you can play for Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, and a bonus. As stay tuned to the end for the bonus. There's a multiplayer game that we recommend playing in case you're just jonesing for the Mass Effect multiplayer that is just not around right now. But first, if this is your first time to the channel, please hit the subscribe button below for more Mass Effect Legendary and all RPG game news, reviews, live Let's Plays. This is what we do on the channel. We enjoy playing role-playing games, and we enjoy working with the community to talk about them. And also, we are excited to announce our new merch store. As you can see here in the window, we have new merchandise with our updated Gamer Roundup logo. We have cool things from sweatshirts, hoodies, pajamas, pillows that you could use as a body pillow. And then, of course, we have cool things like hats and iPhone cases and everything. So please check it out. And any purchase you make helps support the channel. And we'll continue to reinvest that into the channel. But without further ado, let's go over the games that we recommend for Mass Effect once you've beaten Mass Effect, and what you would like to play. So first, for Mass Effect 1, our three recommendations are Dragon Age Origins, Bound by Flame, and Fallout 3. First, we'll go over Dragon Age Origins. Origins is the first game in the series. It was released for Microsoft, PlayStation, Windows, Xbox, and of course on the PlayStation ecosystem back in 2009, November 2009. First game in the series, you start in the kingdom of Ferelden during a period of civil unrest. The game puts you in a role of a warrior, mage, or a rogue coming from either an elven, human, or dwarven background. Your character is recruited into the Grey Wardens, which is an ancient order that stands against monsters known as Darkspawn, and is tasked with defeating the archdemon that commands them and ending their invasion. BioWare themselves have actually described Origins as a spiritual successor to their, apologies, English is hard today apparently, to their previous games, Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights. It was critically received from all the critics for its character story, voice acting, and traditional RPG combat and gameplay. After Origins, they actually released an expansion called Awakening for that game. And it added a new campaign that takes place during the aftermath of Dragon Age Origins. That was released in 2010, and they actually bundled it back up together to re-release as the series as a whole in one game. It still has a very, very active community on PC, especially with the modding and everything. So it's definitely a game worth checking out. Even on console, I'm a console player myself. I'm a diehard console player, unfortunately. But, you know, there's a ton of value in that game for sure. Number 2, Bound by Flame. It's a lesser known game by Spider Studios, but Bound by Flame lets the player characterize their character. During your character creation, you actually have the ability to choose different genders and from 3 pre-made models. Throughout each chapter, you will get different quests, and your primary adventure is basically going and fighting another demon that's in the world. You actually, the cool part of this game is you actually have a demon that you've encountered in the wild and is trying to help you defeat them, and your character after each chapter actually changes depending on which side of the good or the bad, Paragon, Renegade, for Mass Effect terms that you go with. Your character begins to resemble either more human or more demonic. So it's really pretty cool, and there's some cool crafting functions and stuff in there. It's definitely a game that I wish there was a sequel to, but sadly there's not. And then finally, for Mass Effect 1, if that was your favorite game in the franchise, I would recommend Fallout 3. It's a game set within another post-apocalyptic open-world environment that encompasses a region around the ruins of Washington, D.C. And, it's basically, thanks to the atomic age technology, it led to the devastation of the world during a nuclear apocalypse. It's kind of set in the year 2077 after the Great War. And the main story takes place in the year 2277, about 36 years after the event of Fallout 2, which is not a direct sequel. I myself have never played Fallout 2, 1 or 2, but I have played Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Fallout 4, and a little 76, unfortunately, but that's not what this video is about. So basically, you start off as an inhabitant of Vault 101. There are several underground shelters created before the Great War to protect around 1,000 humans from nuclear fallout. And you go through the game, and you basically just go through your story arc, and kind of started that whole Fallout series. So it's really, it's a fun game. It's one I haven't played probably in 7-8 years. So I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but it's definitely, when I played it, I enjoyed it very much. Not as much as another game that we'll talk about later. But now let's say Mass Effect 2 is your favorite game in the series. There's 3 games we would recommend for that. First one being Technomancer. That game is set during the War of Water, 200 years after humans colonized Mars. You play a protagonist, a rookie Technomancer named Zachary, from Abundance, which is one of the most powerful corporations on the Red Planet. So the planet's divided up into corporations who kind of run everything. Zachary flees the city of Ophir and heads to the town of Noctis, which is nearby. He attempts to you're basically trying to find a beacon to contact Earth throughout the game, and there's different story arcs you go through, different choices. There's actually 3 different endings in the game. The combat is really fun. It's got different styles of combat that you can switch between, and you get to craft your own weapons and armor, and there's skill trees you level up. It's actually a lot of fun. I enjoyed that game a lot. Not as much as many others. Or, I'm sorry, I enjoyed it more than probably some that I've spoken with. But it's definitely worth, if you're into the whole space RPG, it's definitely one worth playing. And hopefully you have. If not, I would definitely recommend picking it up. It's going to be cheap right now. The second game we recommend, Fallout New Vegas. Basically, you take control of a character known as a courier while transporting a package across the Mojave Desert to the city of New Vegas, which used to be Las Vegas. You are ambushed and robbed of the package, shot, and left for dead. After you survive, you begin your journey to find the would-be killer and recover the package, make friends and enemies along the way with different factions, ultimately being caught up in a conflict which determines who controls New Vegas and the Mojave Wasteland. Definitely had a ton of it. This one was, Bethesda was the producer, but this one was actually created by Obsidian, which we did not add another Obsidian game, Outer Worlds. We'll talk about that later as an honorable mention, but that one is definitely a great game too. But this one, probably one of the most popular out of the entire Fallout franchise, and I would definitely recommend playing that. And then finally, Dragon Age 2, which was the sequel to Dragon Age Origins, released in 2011. BioWare Edmonton's office basically created the game after Awakening, put you in the role of Hawk, which is you could be a human mage, a rogue, a warrior. You arrive at Kirkwall, you become the champion of Kirkwall throughout your battles, and this one actually feels like, even though Origins is much more open world, it feels like this one's very linear. Gameplay style. The combat is improved in my opinion. And I feel like the character connection is more because they condensed the open world of the game and it made it more story driven, more focused on the players. It's actually my favorite of the entire Dragon Age series, which it's not a very popular choice, but I love that game and I've played it. I've beaten it probably, no lie, probably 12 to 13 times, and I'll definitely continue to play it. So finally, the last choice. If Mass Effect 3 was your favorite game of the franchise and you've beaten the Legendary Edition and you're not quite ready to go through another playthrough, these are the 3 games we would recommend for that. Greedfall, which is an amazing game, another Spider's Entry that I enjoyed very much. Basically, it's an island paradise has been discovered by colonial forces from several distinct nations within fictional lands. But this land has both magic and monsters. So players assume the role of Desarde, a neutral human who is royalty, and you arrive on the island and you have the ability to ally with the natives who inhabit the land, or any of the different factions that came over with you, or any of the foreign nations competing to conquer and colonize the new land, and also try to find a cure to a mysterious illness that actually plagues the homeland that you just escaped. It's an amazing game. I love it very much. I've beat it twice. My 5-year-old, she's actually beating it, and I don't know if she knew what she was doing, but she was great at it. So it's fun for all ages for sure. Next is Fallout 4. This game, I engulfed so many hours in my first playthrough. It was amazing. Basically, it takes place in 2287, 10 years after the events of Fallout 3, and 210 years after the Great War, which basically led to nuclear devastation across the United States. You assume control of a character from Vault 111 as the sole survivor, and you basically play out trying to find out who murdered your spouse. And you can, again, choose the beginning at the game if you want to be the husband or the wife, and whoever stole your child that you kind of woke up out of cryogenic sleep. And then you go through the whole story arc trying to find out what's really going on in the world that you've woken up to. And important to know about Fallout 4 is it also marks the first game in this series to feature full voice acting for your character. So it's a lot of fun, especially if you're the type of player that enjoys having, you know, a RPG style game where your character actually has audio, you know, lines. That's definitely the first one that did this one for that series, and I enjoyed this game immensely. And then finally, we would be remiss not to mention Dragon Age Inquisition, which is a sequel to Dragon Age 2, released worldwide in 2014. You can, again, you play the role of Inquisitor. You can be a warrior, a mage, or a rogue, either coming from Elven, Human, Dwarven, or for the first time ever, Quinari background, who survived a cataclysmic event, which led to the creation of this mysterious terror in the sky called the Breach. And you have to basically fight Corypheus, who is an ancient darkspawn who opened the Breach, and is, of course, to attempt to conquer Thetis and achieve godhood. Dragon Age Inquisition was critically received. Had over 150 awards it won its first year. It's definitely an amazing game, and I've sunk in probably 400 hours into that game since its release. My oldest, she replays it at least once a year. That's her go-to. Hey, I'm going to unwind for the next 3 weeks and play. That's her game, and I can see why it's an amazing game. Honorable mentions, Dragon's Dogma. That's a great game to play. It's a little dated now. You know, the fast travel system's a little weird, but it's definitely worth checking out. Final Fantasy 15, really any Final Fantasy game, with the last Final Fantasy that was just released. Amazing game to play, especially if you're into that genre. You will definitely enjoy that. And of course, Outer Worlds, which is another Obsidian game. I love it. I'm not big on just a first-person perspective RPG, but I still played through that entire game and I loved it. And I think you will too, especially if you enjoyed any of the Mass Effect games. And if you definitely enjoy any Bethesda games, you will love Obsidian. You probably know who they are already, but just in case, I'll keep mentioning it. And then finally, our bonus, if you miss Mass Effect multiplayer, and I know there's rumors going around about it being announced for EA's EA Play Live event July 22nd, but the number one recommendation for that, I would absolutely recommend playing the newest game out called Outriders. It is so much fun. It's fast, action, intense. It's PvE with the help of other players, so it's not quite necessarily a horde mode. You play the story mode together, you know. And when the game first came out, there was a ton of issues with getting, you know, cross platforms to work, and you know they've done some updates and they kind of ironed it out. I didn't get to finish playing it because I jumped right into Mass Effect Legendary Edition upon release, but I can tell you it is an amazing game, and I'm definitely going to go back to it. You know, it's a game that I got for free with Game Pass Ultimate, so I'm going to keep playing that for sure. And I would definitely recommend, if you haven't played it and you're an Ultimate Game Pass Ultimate member, pick it up. You will not regret it. It is so much fun. I just kept sinking. I probably sunk about 16 hours into it already, and I'm a little sorry that I had to walk away, but I'm not, because I walked away for Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which is obviously the greatest game of all time, in our humble opinion. But with that, we'll go ahead and wrap this video up. I hope you enjoy it. Just wanted to give everyone some recommendations on what to play in case they've already finished the Legendary Edition and they're not ready to get back into it quite yet. Any of these games we recommend, and we'll put them in the descriptions below. But these are our recommendations to play. And until next time, gamers, we appreciate you watching. Much love for our community. Take care, and we'll see you next time.